What's up, YouTube? I'm here to do my prediction video for UFC Fight Night Anderson versus Błachowicz. Let's start at the bottom. The first fight is Mark De La Rosa versus Rulian Pavia. And to me, Pavia, even though he's 0-2 in the UFC, I don't think that's kind of fair to how close those fights were. His debut fight, he lost a really, really close split decision to that Australian guy who's at flyweight, who, in my opinion, should be undefeated in the UFC at this point. And the other guy he lost to is another guy who is undefeated in the UFC at this point, that other Brazilian guy who's on the main card later. I can't remember his name, but when I get to it, I'll say it. And so, he's got two really close losses, one from a cut, one from a split decision. And before that, he was 18-1, and to me, he looks like he's really well-rounded with his striking, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu. Mark De La Rosa is kind of the same. He's really well-rounded. The difference is I feel like Mark's losses are pretty clear-cut. He just lost to better guys. This fight's really close, I think, overall. I think the biggest thing is just who can kind of time the takedowns better and score points when they need to. And I'm leaning towards Pavia. I just like him a little bit more. I think he's really solid, and I think he's going to edge out a close decision. Next is Macy Cheston versus Shana Young. And to me, Shana Young looks like she's a decent grappler overall, but that's about it. I think Macy's the much better striker, and she's just the more athletic overall chick, and I think she's just got the higher potential overall. That's the best way to put it. And I think she's going to get better from her last fight, and I think eventually, if Macy's ever on top of this chick, I think she's going to crush her, and if it's on the feet, I think she's going to outland her. So I've got Macy winning by TKO, probably second or third round. Next is Casey Kennedy versus Merab Dvalishvili, and Dvalishvili is another guy where his record's like 9-4, but you look at the guys he's lost to, and they're all really, really good. Some of his losses are kind of questionable, too. They were close split decisions, or that really bullshit guillotine where the clock ran out, but they still said he was unconscious, which was weird. I think Casey Kennedy's the longer fighter. He's probably the better striker at distance, if he can keep it there. But I think this fight's going to be a close wrestling match, whether it's on the ground or against the fence. And I think this is going to be really, really close, really, really back and forth. But I'm just leaning towards Merab just because I think he's the better wrestler. And I think he's going to edge out the rounds a little bit. So I got Merab winning a 30-27 decision, or at least a 29-28. Next, we got Devin Clark versus Daquan Townsend. And, to me, Daquan, I thought he was going to be better than he was. He hasn't impressed me very much in 2 fights. I feel like, he has power and he has decent takedown defense. He just doesn't throw a very high volume, and he's just not this super amazing fighter overall, in my opinion. I don't think Devin Clark's super amazing either, but I think he's got a speed and wrestling advantage. And I think as long as he doesn't get clipped, he should be able to grind this against the fence or grind it out on the ground. So I got Devin Clark winning by decision. Next, we got Jim Miller versus Scott Holtzman, and this is one of the closer fights on the card. I feel like, in terms of overall striking, it's pretty close. Scott definitely probably hits a little bit harder, but Jim's probably a little bit cleaner with his technique. On the ground, Scott's definitely the better wrestler, but Jim's probably the better grappler overall. It's tough. I think it could go either way. I think it's just going to be whoever's night it is. This could potentially be fight of the night, but I'm just leaning towards Jim Miller. I just like his submission game a little bit more than Scott's just ability to hold him on the ground. Like I said, on the feet, I think Jim's just going to be a little bit better, and I think he'll be able to kind of outpoint Scott a little bit and maybe even knock him out or catch him on the ground after he's rocked him. So I've got Jim Miller winning by either first or second round sub. Next, we got John Dodson versus Nathaniel Wood, and to me, John Dodson hasn't been looking great recently. He hasn't been fighting super consistently. When he does, he just seems like he's kind of just showing up, and he's not putting out a lot of effort. That's just my personal opinion. To me, Nathaniel Woods looked amazing in all 3 of his UFC fights. I mean, he's basically out-grappling guys when he's primarily a striker, so that shows how well-rounded he is. And I don't think he'll be able to submit, John Dodson and out-grapple him like that. John Dodson's hard to take down, hard to hold down. He's one of the best guys at that in the UFC. But I do think, just based on how John's been fighting, he hasn't been very active on the feet. And I feel like Nathaniel Wood, as long as he's careful, I think he can outpoint him for 3 rounds. So I got Nathaniel Wood winning by decision. Next, we got Tim Means versus Daniel Rodriguez. And to me, Rodriguez looks like a decent up-and-comer, but I think he's taking this fight in just way too short notice against somebody as good as Tim Means. Like I said, he's good everywhere, but he's primarily a striker, just like Tim Means. I feel like Tim Means is pretty decent everywhere, but he's also primarily a striker. I think other than Daniel kind of catching him with a big shot, I think Tim Means is just the better striker, and he's had more time to train for this. So I think Tim Means is either going to get a decision or a late TKO. Next, we got Lando Venata versus Yancy Medeiros, and this is 2 really good strikers going at it. I don't want to say really good, but 2 fun strikers is the better way to put it. Neither of these guys is amazing grapplers. They have some submission ability and some wrestling, but realistically, this fight's going to be on the feet the whole time. to me, it's just, can Venado catch Yancey with a big shot, or can Yancey just wear him down with the forward movement and the overall combos? And we've seen time and time again, Lando's shtick of just throwing big shit and not landing it. It's more often than not that he's not landing it. It's just his UFC debut and the one cartwheel kick. Other than that, he really he's struggled in almost every fight because he gasses pretty fast, and when he doesn't land that big shot, it's kind of over. And even when he paces himself, he's even less likely to win because it just seems like his technique isn't as good as a lot of these other guys. It's just his athleticism and his power in that first few explosions. I think if he fights at pace, Yancey's just the much better striker when they're fighting at pace. So I think that's what's going to happen. I think Yancey just edges out all 3 rounds and wins a decision. Next is Rodrigo Benoit, or Bentaro, something like that, Bentarin, versus Ray Borg. And to me, the biggest thing in this fight is Ray Borg going to make weight? You know what I mean? I feel like if he misses weight, he's probably going to win. And that's kind of annoying because I feel like it's just a size advantage. If he makes weight, I think he's going to be too drained to, wrestle with Benoit the whole time. I think that Benoit, is a little bit better in terms of kind of speed when it comes to the grappling situations. Ray Borg's probably a little bit better of a wrestler. I think Benoit's a little bit better with his jiu-jitsu. Striking-wise, it's pretty close. But like I said, to me, the biggest thing is Benoit's younger. I'm sorry if I'm saying his name wrong. And I feel like he's undefeated so far in the UFC. As where Ray Borg's kind of been having a hard time being consistent, and we've seen him kind of getting, outsized at bantamweight, which is why he's going back down to 25. But I don't know if he can make this weight. That's the biggest thing, is the weight. And like I said, if he makes weight, I think Benoit wins all day. I think he's in better shape. He's younger. And if Borg misses weight, he's definitely probably going to win. And I just have this weird feeling he's going to miss weight. But either way, I'm just going to assume he makes weight, and because of that, I'm going with Bentaro or Benoit. I don't know how to say his name. Next, we got Brock Weaver versus Kazula Vargas. And Kazula Vargas looks like a decent striker. Both these guys are primarily boxers, but I think Brock Weaver has a massive advantage on the ground. I think his overall wrestling and jiu-jitsu are way better. I don't know if he'll use that. I think this is going to be a boxing fight for the most part. I'm slightly leaning towards Brock Weaver in the boxing department, even though I think it's close. But like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Brock tries to take this to the ground. Like I said, I definitely think his jiu-jitsu and overall grappling is a lot better than Vargas is. And like I said, if he takes it down, he can definitely win by submission as long as he just isn't forcing it. So I'm leaning towards Brock Weaver to win by decision. Sorry, I got a text on my phone. Next is Montana De La Rose versus Mara Romero Belora. And to me, I just feel like De La Rose is just... These two chicks are very similar, but I just think De La Rose is the much better fighter overall. I think striking and jiu-jitsu, they're basically the same. Like I said, I think De La Rose is one level higher in both. And because of that, I'm picking her to win. Throws a little dry. Next is Diego Sanchez versus Michael Pereira. And to me, it's kind of who's going to do what. Pereira is either going to win by first round knockout, or Sanchez is going to win by decision. I think it can kind of go either way. I'm just leaning towards Pereira. I think if he just does kind of what Justin Gaethje did and reels it in just a little bit, then I think he can be even more successful than he has been. His whole career, his biggest issue is he does backflips and shit while he's fighting, and he gasses himself out. And you can see he's an amazing striker. He just needs to reel it in like this much, like Justin Gaethje, you know what I mean? You can still throw some crazy shit here and there, just like you don't need to backflip like 5 times in the middle of a fight and gas yourself out like that. I feel like if he didn't do that shit, he'd be way more successful. And that's all I think he needs to do in this fight, is just pace himself a little bit, and he'll win by knockout. I think Diego Sanchez's chin is not as good as it used to be. And I think that, like I said, he's basically just a wrestler now, and I think Pierre is on the uprise and Diego's a little bit on the downswing. But like I said, if Pierre is just going nuts, he's going to lose. I mean, if Diego can just kind of survive and not get hit with the crazy shit, he's going to out-wrestle him and beat him up on the ground. You know what I mean? Like, Diego's consistent like that. It's just I don't think he's as good as he used to be, and Pierre is younger and more on the upswing. So I got Pierre winning by first round KO. I don't know why my throat is so sore. Finally, we got Corey Anderson versus Jan Blachowicz. And to me, this is just 100%, striker versus grappler. I mean, Corey's gotten better with his striking, but he's still primarily just a wrestler. And Jan, his takedown defense has gotten better, and his jiu-jitsu solid too. But I just feel like if Corey's on top of him, it's not going to matter. To me, the biggest thing is Jan's closed the gaps in his game a lot better, in my opinion. I think his stamina is a lot better, and I think his takedown defense has gone a lot better. He always had good striking, good jiu-jitsu. The two biggest weaknesses was he would gas after like a round, or he wouldn't be able to stuff takedowns. Now, I haven't seen him getting taken down in forever, and he doesn't get tired. You know, he just fought 25 hard minutes against Jacare, and he looked good in the 5th, like more charged up than Jacare. To me, Anderson, his biggest issue was always just overall striking and mixing the striking and the wrestling. He's gotten better at mixing the striking and the wrestling, and his striking's definitely gotten better. I just don't think he's world-class striking. I think he's always just going to be primarily a wrestler. I'm not saying his boxing can't get better over time, and I know he did knock out Johnny Walker, but I think that was more so Johnny Walker just disrespecting him and him just catching him. To me, I don't think Jan's going to disrespect Corey like that. I think he knows what Corey's going to try to do, and I think as long as he sticks to his P's and Q's, he's the better striker, and his takedown defense is good enough where I think he can keep it on the feet and eventually either catch Anderson or win by decision. So I've got Jan winning by decision. Unless he gets pushed against the fence for 5 straight rounds, which could happen. That is a strong possibility because that's what Jacare tried to do, and he was successful at first. So Jan needs to work at getting off the fence, which I think he did. And if he does, I think he's the much better striker, and I think he's going to win by knockout sooner or later. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.